You know, at my house at Thanksgiving, everyone expresses their gratitude before dinner. It's usually something like, we're grateful for our health, our family and friends, and Jenny's pumpkin pie, because it is awesome. It really is. It's delicious, easy to make, low fat, no cream, no butter, no shortening. It has an oil crust, but I make the filling first. I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to use an electric mixer, but you can do this by hand. I'm using a 15-ounce can of pumpkin. Now, not pumpkin pie filling. This is just pure pumpkin. And that is about 1 3/4 cups. So if you're using fresh pumpkin, you'd use 1 3/4 cups. However, canned pumpkin has more vitamin A than fresh. This is a 12-ounce can of 2% evaporated milk. And it's low fat, 2%, and you have to shake these cans before. So it says so on the top to shake first. So you shake it up. All right, and we're going to add the low-fat milk. This is one reason why it's nice and low-fat. It's only 4 ingredients, this filling, plus the spices. Very, very simple. We're going to add 3 eggs. I'm using large eggs, which I think most people use. So 3 eggs go in here. And 3/4 cup of sugar. And now the spices. Let me tell you about the spices. Here they are. It's going to be 1 1/2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, cloves, and salt. But let me talk about the cinnamon first. It's 1 1/2 teaspoons of cinnamon, the ones that most stores carry, which is the Ceylon cinnamon. But if you can get your hands on Saigon cinnamon, it is so much better. It's stronger, more potent, more flavorful. And if you use the Saigon cinnamon, it's 1 teaspoon. But for people that can't get it or have this cinnamon, it's 1 1/2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So there's all the spices. That goes into the mix. Oops, okay. And then you mix this up, and that's the filling. Now you can do this by hand, with a whisk, electric mixer, but don't beat it on high. You just mix it till it's well combined, and the spices have to get all combined in there. So it takes about 15-20 seconds. All right, I make the filling first because I don't want the pie crust to sit around. I want it to get filled as soon as it's made. So there's the filling. You set that aside. I'm going to reset my table, and then we'll make the crust. All right, before we make the crust, I want to show you the pan that I'm using. I'm using a deep dish pie pan. This is a 9-inch pan. If you have a Pyrex pan like this, it's too much filling for this pan, so you need a deep dish pan like this. Okay, so here's my oil pie crust. It's 1 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour into a bowl. It's 1 tablespoon of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to mix that up with a fork, just a little bit, like this. And now we're going to add a 1/3 cup each of oil and milk. Now I'm using extra light olive oil. You can use canola oil or any vegetable oil you want. I'm using 1% milk to keep it low fat. You can use whole milk if you want. So they go in all at the same time into the flour. You just mix that up. And this is heart healthy. This one, especially with olive oil, is heart healthy. And it takes just seconds to mix it up like this. Shape it into a ball. It forms into a ball pretty quickly. And here's the thing about this, these oil crusts. They were initially made to pat. You can just pat them into a pie pan. If you find that easier, you can do that. But I find it a lot better to just roll it thin between wax paper, and you have the same thickness of crust. So you shape it into a ball like this. And I'm going to do it between the wax paper. So I'll just set this aside for a second. And you just spread out 2 sheets of wax paper like this. You flour the bottom one so it doesn't stick. You press this down into, about a 5-inch disc or so. I even spank my pie dough. All right, a little flour on the top so it doesn't stick. Some wax paper on the top. And now we're going to roll it with my new rolling pin. I got this at Anthropologie. All right, so we're going to roll this. And again, I just think this is more efficient than trying to pat it evenly into a pie pan. This gives you an even crust. There's no rules about rolling. You just, whatever, you roll it as wide as the wax paper will let you, which is, I think it's 12 inches. Or a little bit over the edges is okay too. So, much easier to me and it gives you an even crust. Okay. All right, you see it's not a perfect circle, but that's okay because this is really, really easy to patch. So you take off the top wax paper, peels off just like that. And let me get my pie, here's the pie pan. All right, so this one just drape it over your arm like that. Okay, and you just plop it in the pan. Okay, this is such a flexible dough. You just kind of get it in, since it can be patted in anyway, you just kind of get it in there. And the beauty of this is you can patch. If you have any cracks or stuff like that, it's really easy. You just stick on a piece of, from the edge. So here's what I do. I usually take a knife and I just cut the edge off like that. And that's going to give you some leftover pieces to patch if you need it. The last pie I made, I needed a whole bunch of patching. This one, I just need to patch. I'm going to fill right here. You just take a little piece and you just stick it on there. And that's it. And we have a big opening like that, a big thing. You take a bigger piece or two pieces and you just fill it. Now these edges can burn because it's a long time in the oven, so I kind of push it away from the edge of the pan so it doesn't burn. And after this, it's ready for the filling. It's always good to kind of just re-stir it, make sure it's all stirred up into the prepared crust. You ready? This is how liquid it is, but that's normal. Don't get scared. See, look how full this is. You know, you'll see why that other pie pan is not going to work. You need this deep dish pan like this. You get out all the filling. Okay. Oh, it smells so good. Spices. Okay. All right. Now, one more thing before you put it in the oven is if you just put it in like this, the crust is probably going to burn because it's in the oven for quite a while. So you have to protect this crust. I use what they call a pie shield or a pie ring, and you just put it on there on top of the edges to keep the edges from getting too much heat. If you don't, these are like $5 at the store. If you don't have one of these, you can make something out of a strip of foil, but you have to protect the edges. So I'm going to use this pie ring, and this is now going to go into my preheated 375-degree oven, that's Fahrenheit, for 1 hour. And oh, one more thing. If you're, depending on your pan, if it's really, really full, you can put most of the filling in, put it in the oven, and then just kind of ladle in the rest of it while it's already on the shelf so it doesn't spill over. Okay? All right, so here it goes into the oven, carefully, because it's very liquid. Okay. One hour for pumpkin pie. So my pie is baking, but this is one I made last night because it does take like an hour to bake, about 2.5 hours to cool. And you notice even with the pie ring, it's still pretty dark here, but it's really, really crispy and delicious. And these cracks like that are completely normal. But I still want to show you how to test a pumpkin pie to make sure it's done. You take a very thin knife, you insert it into the center area of the pie, and if it comes out clean like that, the pie is done. So there's my pie, my delicious, awesome pumpkin pie. And now I have a pie joke for you. Why did the pie go to the dentist? Because it needed a filling. You don't think that's funny? My little friend here thinks it's funny, don't you, Bruno? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Do you want to... Oh, God. Beef stew has to be one of the all-time best comfort foods ever. And you can dress it up and make it fancy, but I like mine the old-fashioned way, which is really simple. Homemade cinnamon buns are the best thing you can make. And I'll show you how they can be healthy and low-fat and still be soft and gooey and delicious.